All right. Hey, everybody. We are on habit 5, chapter 5 of high performance habits. And it was just powerful yet again. Totally enjoyed it. And just like a lot of these habits, I see so much of plexus in each one of these chapters and everything he talks about here. And so, yeah, again, I feel so thankful and grateful that we have the leadership that we have for our team, that we've been taught really well, and that we practice a lot of these things already. And it makes me very proud and thankful and grateful. So, as we know, these chapters are huge. There's a lot to talk about. And that's not my job. My job is not to sit here and talk for 20 minutes and it's more you guys. So but I love that he actually broke this down into kind of a basics part, and then he dove into some more just detailed deep dive stuff. So with his ultimate influence model. So um influence developing influence. So there's 3 things that we want to do here with people. 3 main things that he's going to talk about in this chapter. And this is for the second part. It's about teaching people how to think. And I love that he addressed something that he addressed at the very end of the chapter, because it's sometimes where people go about that. So, but teaching people how to think, challenging people how to grow, and role modeling the way. So that's really the oversight of what this chapter is, and the meatier part of the second part of the chapter. But the first part, he just shrinks it all into that influence basics part at the beginning. Of course, after his storytelling, he tells such great stories. I just love, wouldn't you just want to be like a fly on the wall, or just travel around and like and see all these people he talks to? The whole time he was talking about Juan and that whole situation on his private plane. And I'm like, who is this guy and what company is he talking about? Like, he is connections to really huge people in the world. So it's pretty cool. But he tells some really good stories and asks really good questions. And I just love how he starts each chapter out with that, because it really gives good perspective into what he's going to explain here. But influence basics, this part, like we say all the time, I underlined like the entire thing or drew boxes around everything, because this really is the basics of, if you want to influence people, this is really important. And it's stuff that we talk about all the time. So the first thing he says is influence, that it's defined as the ability to shape other people's beliefs and behaviors as you desire. It means you can get people to believe in you and your ideas, buy from you, follow you, or take actions that you request of them. Okay. And there's 3 things that he really just kind of starts off with, and then of course gets deeper later. But asking is the first one. You got to ask. And how often do we say that, you guys? We just have to ask. And that whole part is something we talk about all the time. You never know unless you ask. Part of gaining influence is learning to make lots of requests and getting better at making those requests. And of course, that only comes with lots of practice. So doing it over and over and over again. And then remembering that we can't worry about what the response is, because obviously there's going to be a lot of no's or no thank yous, but we can't worry about that part. And he does go into talking about how underperformers fail to ask all the time because they let fear of what other people are thinking get in the way of that. And then he seriously crushes that by something we've talked about many times before too. Like, we put way too much stock into what other people think when they probably are not really thinking much at all. They probably forget about it. Everybody's busy. Everybody's going on with their own lives. Like, don't worry about it. And of course, we like to say too, they just don't know enough yet, right? They don't have enough information yet. So we have to ask again. And he brings that up later on too. He's like, you have to ask, and you have to ask often. So it's really, and when you ask, yeah, you don't know if you don't ask. So like, if you just are, I love that, Lisa. If you're just thinking like, I don't know what they're going to think, and you start creating all of these scenarios in your head, it may not even be true, so if you're not going to really know, if you don't actually ask the question. So it's really important to do that. Okay. And then a second, and of course, when you are asking people things like, and he also talks about, I should say too, that it's not just necessarily making requests for things that you want. Like he talks about asking people questions, asking them what they think, trying to get them involved in stuff. So, like when we're doing things as team members and stuff too, like if you want to have influence over even your current customers or asking people, and we've read this book about asking better questions, right? Like it's okay to ask questions and try to gain influence over people in that way too. So, but you can't gain influence over people if you never talk to them, and I think we all know if you want to really gain influence over people, you want to talk about them. So the only way to do that is to ask questions. Ask questions, invite them into conversations, have them, share their thoughts and their feelings about things. Um, because typically when that type of stuff starts to happen, if there's some good conversation happening, then you're going to be allowed to share your thoughts and feelings about things as well. And you can have this back and forth. So, but you have to start by asking. Okay. The second one he talks about in those basics is give and you shall receive. And oh, I love this one so much. I didn't write a ton of notes on it because it's so basic, but it's so true. If you're never giving back and giving to others, then you're not going to gain any influence over people. You need to have a giving mindset. You need to always be looking to help others, not worrying about, obviously we want to have boundaries and stuff. You got to be a little careful about your time, but he does talk about too, people who worry about giving too much and too much of their time are people who have not learned how to master their energy and their productivity. Okay. So it's important that we look to give and that we give back and we give out of a willing and loving heart. And that we do it and we don't expect a lot of out of return. We don't expect anything in return. Sorry, my words are getting jumbled here. But when you do that and you give back and there's no expectation, that builds trust. And then it's going to build influence with people. And there's going to be some admiration and there's going to be some respect that's built. So we want to be able to give back, and of course, you guys, if you love the Lord, you're going to want to give anyway, right? I mean, that's what we're called to do, is to love God and love others. And how do we do that? Is we serve. And so what do we do here with Plexus? We serve. We have a 100% service company. We serve with our products. We serve with our business. So that's something that we have to give to people. Okay. But doing that in lots of different ways is so important. And you're going to gain influence over people when you are giving back to them in some way, shape, or form. Okay. And then the last one he really talks about that I absolutely love too, that I feel like our team and our company does so well, is being a champion of people. And I think all of us can think about either a job we're in right now or a past job that we've held where we probably did not get recognized very often, cheered for very often, probably didn't get a whole lot of pats on the back for the jobs that we did. And I feel like this is something that we are really good at here. We cheer each other on, we encourage each other, we lift each other up, we shout each other out. Our company does it, we do it as a team. But we should just be doing that anyway to people, encouraging people, speaking truth and life over them. We're called to do that. And I think if that's something that you are making a common practice, you are definitely going to gain influence over people. People are going to see that as you as a positive person, kind, uplifting, energetic, encouraging. I mean, that's who really I want to be around, right? And so if you are emulating that and practicing that, then people are going to want to be around you. They're going to be influenced by you and the things that you're sharing and talking about. So, and again, called to do that. These are things that are not just like good habit practices. These are things that the Lord calls us to do, speaking truth and life over people in his name. So just loved that basic section so much. I love this chapter a ton. But those were the three basics. And then of course we dive into his ultimate influence model in those last pages. And those were deep and so good. And I just really want you guys to share more about what your thoughts are. So love, love, love for you guys to start sharing what you learned.
I'll go back to page, well, on mine, it's 225 when you were talking about giving, you know, like, giving and you shall receive under that section. And having a giving mindset. I think a lot of times when we talk to either our customers or our potentials, I think it's already an opportunity to give even before people sign up. You're giving information, but you're also giving, how often don't we ask people, how much water do you drink? And well, most people say not enough, yeah. And, just give them the information about, whether they sign up or not. The best thing they can do is drink water, so if you're giving that information and like you say, earning trust, then you're building that trust level then by, I shouldn't say like free information or free, but that's what you're doing. You care enough to give them information about, and with no winning, if they decide not to join you, well, that's okay. You gave them information, you gave them something that would help them. So
Yeah.
I thought of that when I was reading that section. So.
That's so good, Jer. Yep. We give a lot of unsolicited, sometimes people don't want it, but but we give a lot of advice to people who don't even join us yet. Like think of all the conversations we have with our potentials and yeah, whether they join us or not. And then we also give a lot of time and energy to people for like who have joined us, for being on the products and all of that. So I love that. That's so good.
I like the part on my book, it's page 220, but influence is strongly correlated with feeling like you're making a difference, which I feel like most of us probably feel like that, and the serving part as well. You kind of take the shift off of yourself and more into that serving role. I think we really do make a difference in people's lives. If they let it, a lot of times people give up too soon, but the ones that really want it, I think it makes a big difference. And then it also says more influence really does equal a better life. When you can help more people, you feel better about yourself and, giving them a better way of life, either for products or business. So, yeah, I think influence is a big deal.
So good, Lisa.
I love how he continues to just reveal and remind us that the hurdles and stuff that we face in our businesses and just in life in general, we create them, like we put them there. And we could very easy not or remove them anytime we want. Even like the hesitation to ask people, to talk to people, to reach out to people because we're afraid of what they're going to say. In that one sentence, he says, otherwise, you've set aside your dreams for judgments that probably don't even exist. So we're putting our dreams on a shelf for an imaginary hurdle that most of the time is not even there, when we could move forward, dreams in hand, taking the next step forward. And it's like, why do we put ourselves, it's just like if we had this book open to these pages when we're doing our IPA to remind us of these things. And then as far as leadership and how he talks about setting standards and issuing positive challenges and how that we're just kind of in a period of time where people are shying away from setting standards with others. They're afraid of the conflict. Just in general in the world today, people are afraid of almost butting heads with their neighbor or the person next to them, no matter what the topic may be. So it's like we shy away from anything that might ruffle a feather. But if we're wanting to develop and uncover high performers and there are a lot of people that are high performers that we don't even know are necessarily high performer because they've not been given the challenge or the chance to grow into that, but they want to do well. He says facing a challenge is a huge part of what high performers do well and want to do well. Don't deny them that by being hesitant, again, force placing that by being hesitant to issue that challenge for them. They're waiting for someone to push them a little bit. I know I didn't know that I was waiting for someone to push me a little bit, but sure glad I was. And I've just received tremendous blessing in the last 6 years by having somebody that has pushed me and challenged me in positive ways and seeing potential and saying, you can do this, and helping me get out of my own way and challenge me to be a higher performer, not for my own good, but for the good of the people that I'm wanting to serve and affect. And it's just an amazing thing when we can provide that type of, I want to say assistance kind of for people and challenging them that way.
Amen, Shelley. Didn't you guys just read through this section and think about all the stuff that we do? Like, and just Shelley, how you just explained that, like, I just think about our own situations and what we do with Plexus and how we coach our teams, or how we've been coached and encouraged, and just who here thought that they would ever thought that they'd be able to do this or would do this. Like, yeah, this is not on my radar. My 10-year plan 8 years ago. I thought I was gonna be a retired PE teacher when I was 65. But yeah, that's so true. Like, I loved that section. I was like, just talking out loud to myself in my chair over here about that. Like, people are afraid to challenge people. They're afraid to butt heads, and they're afraid that they're gonna sound bossy or whatever. But he does talk about that at the end, the beautiful lack of trickery at the very end. I really loved that section because I feel like that debunked the negativity that people could say about, well, I don't want to be bossy or whatever. It's not. If you're from high performers come at it with a pure heart. Like, they don't feel like they're respected and they're inspired, and they're doing it for others. Like, it's an act of service. It's because, like you said, Sal saw something in you. She saw that you had all of this opportunity in front of you. And so that's where that all came from, because she knew that you could do all these things. So we can't be scared to do that. We can't be scared to tell people those things, that we believe in them. I'm like, don't we want people to tell us that they believe in us? I mean, like, wouldn't we want somebody else? I would want to tell that to people. And I think it's important that we do, especially now.
I'll go again if no one else
Go
wants to.
for it.
I
Do
know
it.
you guys are going to, so I'll
Yep.
just make it short.
Friends.
On that section, or the practice to challenge people to grow, I just feel he talks about character, connection, and contribution. And that's where we're that's what we're doing now with our book clubs. That's what we're doing. We talk about, the contribution. We're taught to add value to people on our Facebook, add value to people, when we're commenting and when we're talking to them, and connecting. Well, we're talking to our team members, to connect to, what 5 people do you want to surround yourself with, and our character. We talk about the character of our company CEO, and Those three things were huge, I thought, with under that section, you know, challenge people to grow. And isn't that what we want to do too? We want to grow in our character, grow in our connections, and to be one that people want to connect with, you know, like, you know, be that role model of number three, but yeah, and then contribute, adding value. I always wondered, you know, what does that mean? Adding value, adding value. People always say adding value. And I just think that's what we have to, that's what we're called to do. Just be positive and yeah. Anyway, I like those three.
That was three really important things to be practicing ourselves and encouraging in other people. Yeah, what kind of person do you want to be remembered as? For character, what would life look like if you gave your all?
Under the part that says teach people how to think, I thought it was interesting how when he was using the analogy about what if you shared with your child how you used to think about homework or whatever the situation might be, and then how a simple change in the way you thought about it helped you do better and even enjoy the process. I thought, okay, that's really a parallel to our feel, felt, found thing that we try to use a lot, because it's really the same thing. You're sharing how things used to be for you. You're sharing how you changed the way you thought about it and how it had a good result for you, that sort of thing. So that was a good parallel, I thought.
That's really good, Ellen. I did not think about that as I was reading through, probably because I was so worried about catching everything. But I'm so glad you brought that out, because that's exactly what he does there. Thank you. That was really, really good point. And that's how we change how people think, right? Like when we use feel, felt, found, that's what we're doing, is we're changing their perspective by giving them a different one. So I love that. Who loved his parents' story? I was like, oh my goodness. How he said, I watched people treat my dad terribly, but I also watched his responses. He rarely let them throw him off. He would handle conflict situations at work with grace. And I don't know how to say that word. Did you guys look that up? How do you say, what is that word? I don't know how to say that. I don't even know what that means. Somebody look that up. I didn't do that. He would try to make people smile or laugh. He always had a good joke, and he always tried to be helpful. That would make a big influence on your life to see someone handle adversity like that, do it with grace. And his mom too. More thoughts? Come on, guys. Is there something you underlined or?
I like that quote by Kobe Bryant. The most important thing is to try to inspire people so that they can be great in whatever they want to do. And I think not just for us and Plexus, but also like for our kids or our students or our youth group kids that we lead. I just think it's so important to encourage them and tell them, you know what, you're good at that. I can see that where you would be really good at that because X, Y, and Z. And I think that our team is really good in doing that. And I think it's something that's so important to as we go into life with whatever situation. So I really liked that. It's just, but really what it's saying is just to encourage others.
Yeah. Me too, Vicky. I love that. And towards the end of the chapter, it talks about be the light in this chaotic world. Long-term success is from role models. And I really liked that. Just be the light. And then there's also that quote, there's just something magical that happens in our life when we let all the drama go and decide to ask how we can be role models again. And I also liked the role model way, how they said to be a good person in general, just someone who's kind, honest, hardworking, giving, and loving. And I mean, it's a human, right? This is what makes us human. And then it says, to be clear, high performers do want to be perceived as good people and good role models, but that just makes them human. What makes them high performers is the laser focused intention on how they can act in a way that gets someone to improve who they are or achieve a specific result. Yes. That laser focus. So yeah, I liked all those, had all those underlined. I have so much more underlined too. Like as we're talking, I'm just like going through, oh my gosh, yes. Oh yeah. Okay. What was that other one? That one about there was just a really simple one in here about leadership. I might find it later, but it was just like 3 words. I'll probably find it later. But like I said, I have so many things underlined. It's such a good chapter. It is. Is it?
Hey, Kim, is it? Oh, Kim, is it example is leadership?
Yes. Yes. Like that's leadership. How simple. Yeah. Just example. Just being a good role model. Thanks, Vicky. Yeah.
The quotes in here were so great, and Zig Ziglar, I just think he's so common and down to earth in what he says. It seems so simple, but yet we make it so hard. But I like that where he says you will get all you want out of life in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And isn't that the truth? Maybe they don't know. Maybe our potentials don't know they want it yet, but they do. They need it. And so we just help them get what they want, and by teaching them and informing them. And so I just thought that was good. And by doing that, we get to what we want, which is, to grow. So I just thought that was so simple and but yet so profound.
Yeah, really good Zig advice.
Yep.
Any other thoughts? Thanks for sharing, friends. Can wrap it up, but another great chapter, lots to think about. And again, things that I think that we do practice really well, but I love the deep dive and just the thought process behind all of it and why it's important. I think these are inspiring to read through, just to know that we're doing good things and that we need to keep going because there's purpose behind it. So awesome. Thanks for jumping on, you guys, during a slow/busy week of the month. So hope you guys have an awesome night and that you have a great New Year's. That's getting close too. Almost ready to wrap up 2023. Crazy. All right. Thanks, friends. Have a good night.